Hello and welcome to Commodity Culture, where we break down the commodity space for both new and experienced investors. Today we're going to be taking a deep dive into another uranium company, and this time it's Uranium Energy Corp. Before we get started, of course, standard disclaimer, nothing here is investing advice. Do your own due diligence, and as of the time of this recording, I do not own any shares in Uranium Energy Corp. UEC has a market cap of approximately $1.2 billion, trades on the NYSE American in the US. Currently no listing on the TSX, ASX, or any other exchange, so we'll have to keep an eye on that. And all figures listed in this video are US dollars unless otherwise stated. So there is so much to unpack when it comes to UEC, so let's just start with their recent filing of an SK1300 technical study done for their South Texas hub and spoke ISR project, which includes 5 project areas, and this study was filed on August 12th. Now, the unfortunate thing about an SK1300, or at least this one, is there's no economic analysis, so we're not going to get net present value or internal rate of return figures, but we'll work with what we've got. So the 5 main properties that this study pertains to is the Hobson Central Processing Plant. This is where they're going to process the uranium. Burke Hollow, which is fully permitted and ready to go. Goliad, which is fully permitted and ready to go, and then Palangana and Salvo. I'm not super sure on where those are in terms of permitting, but that at least a couple of these projects can go into production is great. The total South Texas disclosed, measured, and indicated resources are 9,126,700 pounds with 4,738,000 tons, grading approximately 0.1% U3O8. And when we look at the inferred resources, it's 9,924,000 pounds with 5,469,000 tons, grading approximately 0.12% U3O8. In terms of quantity and quality, this is all just fine, but I do want to take a quick moment to discuss the difference between measured and indicated and inferred resources. An inferred resource means the quantity, grade, and mineral content can be estimated with a low level of confidence and cannot provide any meaningful economic viability, so you have to take those numbers with a bit of a grain of salt. When it comes to measured and indicated resources, however, these are based on more detailed information in regards to geological and grade continuity, and so can be used to support production planning and evaluation of the economic viability of a deposit. So now that that's cleared up, let's move on. So in terms of what this SK1300 report means for the company, I'd like to present a quote from Andy Curris, who's the VP of Resource Development in Texas for UEC. He says, "We see significant potential in this region and will look to advance our exploration and resource delineation efforts, which will benefit from our extensive resource database containing results from 5,232 drill holes, including survey coordinates, collar elevations, depths, and grade of uranium intercepts." So this is going to allow them to both move towards production more quickly at the properties that are permitted and perform further exploration as well in the area, which could of course yield more resources. So that's all quite bullish. And when we look at the center, the hub, the Hobson Central Processing Plant will be serving as the hub of the project. The other project areas are the satellite facilities or the spokes. And that's very important because the processing plant will process all the mineral mined at each of the project areas, and they're all, I believe, within 50 to 100 miles, so not too difficult to transport the ore there. And it has an installed production capacity of 2 million pounds per year. Texas is also a very mining-friendly jurisdiction, so a great place to be, but their biggest resource area is in Wyoming. We've spoken about Wyoming before when we discussed Energy. If you want to see my analysis of that, there should be a link that pops up above me in this video. Wyoming, obviously one of the most mining-friendly jurisdictions in America, if not all of North America, and a great place to be if you're a mining company. They also have no corporate income tax. There's a lot of advantages to being there. And when we look at UEC's properties in Wyoming, it is massive. The Wyoming hub and spoke, similar to the Texas hub and spoke, has a processing plant. This one is the Ira Garai processing plant with a licensed production capacity of 2.5 million pounds per year, and this is the biggest SK1300 uranium resource summary filed to date in the US, with 62 million pounds of measured and indicated resources and 7 million pounds of inferred U3O8 resources. There are 13 projects here, 4 of them being fully permitted, so this is another area where things are able to ramp up into production, so that is great news. So those are the two, Wyoming obviously being the main area with over 60 million pounds of measured and indicated uranium reserves, and then Texas also looking very good. Both of those jurisdictions, like I said, will be not too difficult to ramp up into production. In fact, they have produced uranium at a few of these properties in the past, although in fairly small numbers, nothing too significant. Some of their other notable projects, and they have a ton of them, I don't know if I'll be able to get into all of them, but they have 3 projects in Arizona, with the flagship one being Anderson, which had an SK1300 report filed in July of 2022. So fairly recent, and that shows an indicated resource of 16,175,000 tons, grading 0.09% U3O8 for 32 million pounds of uranium. And there is a PEA for this project, but it was done way back in 2014, which in my opinion is too old to even mention the numbers in it, so I'm not going to. So hopefully we'll see an updated PEA for the Anderson project coming up soon. Paraguay, they have 2 ISR projects there. Oviedo, which is more of an exploration play. They completed a drilling program on it way back in 2012, and I don't think there's been much going on there since. And UT, which does have an SK1300 report filed in July of this year as well, that showed 8.96 million pounds of U3O8, average grade of 0.049%, and 2.2 million pounds of U3O8 inferred at an average grade of 0.04. No idea when that will go into production, but worth keeping an eye on. They also have a titanium property in Paraguay, which consists of a proposed mining operation to produce an ilmenite concentrate and smelting in an electric arc furnace to produce a high-quality titanium slag and high-quality pig iron projects. Not too sure how in demand titanium is or what the market conditions are on it, and it's one property out of so many. Could become something in the future, though. And moving on to New Mexico, where they have a couple of uranium projects. These are more on the exploration side. I don't think they're anywhere near production, but it is something to keep an eye on, as both the spot price and the long-term contracting price of uranium does go up. You're going to see a lot of these projects that are maybe not so prioritized potentially ramping up as the price rises to incentivize it. So we'll keep an eye on that. And finally, they have an early stage exploration property in Canada. I believe it's in the Athabasca Basin, but that's about to change because they're about to get a lot more land mass in the Athabasca Basin thanks to their recent acquisition of UEX. Now, UBC has had a great run of acquiring assets recently. In fact, they acquired Uranium One America assets not too long ago, I believe it was this year, which combined with the existing assets in Texas, Wyoming, and all their others, make them a huge uranium company in the US, potentially for decades to come. Why does this matter? I think it matters in some ways because of attracting institutional investment. When institutional investors like a hedge fund, a pension fund, or something like that comes in and is looking to enter a space like uranium with so few players in the game, they're going to probably dismiss anything with a market cap of, let's say, under $1 billion. They're probably going to be looking for the bigger players who are closer to ramping up to production, who have the most properties. So I think this will make them attractive in that sense. So the Uranium One America deal doubled the production capacity of UEC by the total number of permitted U.S. ISR projects, resources, and processing infrastructure. It doubled it. So this was huge. Admir Adnani talks a lot about how this was such an important project for them to acquire, to take it out of the hands of those evil Russians, because Uranium One is a Russian company, and bring it back to America, where we're going to produce domestically sourced uranium. America, let's do it. And I get it. I get that narrative. And of course, if I was the CEO of the company, I'd be pushing that too. But I think the more important thing to look at is not so much the narrative and more so the actual projects and assets they acquired, which are significant. So the UEX deal, it was finally completed. There was some drama there. There was a cheeky competing bid from Denison Mines. There was a lot of people wondering which direction things were going to go, but it does look like, as of the recording of this video, everything is finalized, and UEX will be fully acquired by UEC. I don't want to dive into what UEX has going on in terms of assets because this video would take forever, but of course you can go check that out for yourself if you like. Most people think this is a great move for UEC. A few people don't. But overall, I am personally satisfied with it. And I am a UEX shareholder, although it's a very small position. So I suppose I will become a UEC shareholder automatically after this deal gets done. One of my favorite metrics, zero debt. Excellent. $100 million worth of cash and liquid assets on the balance sheet. They have 5 million pounds of physical uranium on the books. Off the top of my head, out of the developers, that is the most physical inventory that I'm aware of. I believe Denison is less than that, and so is Uranium Energy and some of the others. So a very large amount of physical uranium there, which is great for all the reasons I brought up in the past, including being able to use it as collateral for financings. It's probably going to appreciate in the face of inflation as opposed to lose money, lose purchasing power, I should say, as cash on the books does. Love to see those physical pounds on the books. I believe they're all sourced in America as well, so those can potentially be sold into the Strategic Uranium Reserve, something that the United States is putting together. I don't believe there's been any pounds purchased into it yet, but UEC with 5 million pounds on the books definitely could be an early candidate to sell into that reserve if the price makes sense. So let's talk about some of the bearish outlooks for UEC. There is no transparent information out there on the timing of when any of these projects will go online. And for me, that's a bit of an issue. As I said before, this is the same issue with NextGen, although the difference here is they have multiple mines which are permitted, so they could technically ramp up to production. What's the capex on that? How much is it going to all cost? We still don't know the numbers in terms of the all-in cost per pound of uranium to see how economic these projects are. We need some PEAs. We need, things eventually moving towards the pre-feasibility study. We need to see those really before I can at least have full confidence in everything the company is doing. It's all well and good to have all these projects, all these pounds in the ground, making all these acquisitions, but what are the economics of these projects? That's so important. You could have the best deposit, on paper in the world, but if it never goes to production because the cost doesn't make sense, then, there you go. So I'd like to know what their incentive might be in terms of price per pound on the spot market and in the long-term contracting cycle to know when they might be able to turn things on at some of these properties. Now, another issue is that the company has a lot of general and administrative expenses. It's quite large when you compare it with the market cap of the company, and it has been accused of being a lifestyle company because the CEO, Amir Adnani, people say he pays himself way too much. And they might be right. They might be onto something. According to Simply Wall Street and Salary.com, Amir's salary in 2021 was $440,000. It's not even close to done yet. If you include bonuses he took home an additional $895K worth of stock-based compensation and $300,000 as a non-equity bonus, bringing the total value of his salary to a whopping $1.6 million in a single year. This company makes zero revenue. Keep that in mind. That is a bit of a shocking statistic. So make of that what you will. Another issue is they haven't produced much uranium in the past. When we look at a company like Energy Fuels, which I've also done a review of on this program, they have a large amount of historic uranium production that they can point to that bodes very well for them to be able to restart some of these mines that they've got. Energy is producing right now, so that also bodes well for them. It's not a large amount, but they're currently in production. UEC has produced pounds in the past, but it is an insignificant amount, and so their process is not proven in the sense of actually producing the goods at this point. And I mentioned this before, but it bears repeating. We have no economic data. I want to know NPVs. I want to know IRRs after tax. So we need some studies to get those numbers out there, because that's the only way we can really have confidence when we're putting our money on the table. And finally, like so many of these uranium companies, skin in the game. According to Simply Wall Street, insiders own a paltry 2.1% of the shares. So that's a little low. I like to personally see at least 5%. It's not a make or break. And I do think if we look at everything that UEC has going on, for me, like I said, I'm going to become a shareholder technically, very small position. So take that with a grain of salt. But nonetheless, I'm pretty confident in the overall operation on where things are heading, particularly how much of a marketing machine they've been. Some people look at that as a negative thing, but like I said, when it comes to institutional investment in the space, I think that sort of thing is important. So we'll see where things head from here, but we need that economic data. That's like the last missing piece of the puzzle. What are the NPVs and IRRs for these projects, and how promising does that look? What's the capex? What's the opex? These are numbers that I want to see, and maybe I've missed them because these videos take forever to put together, and I don't have time to get to every single aspect or actually read through a lot of these very detailed aspects of the reports. So if anybody out there knows of any PEA, any economic data estimates coming out of the company, more recent, because we have some from like 2014, 2010, but with inflation and how much costs have risen, supply chain breakdowns, I don't think it's even worth looking at those numbers. So if any of those are out there, or if you know of some that are going to be coming out, please do drop that in the comments, along with anything I might have missed, bullish or bearish, on Uranium Energy Corp. Thank you so much, and I'll see you guys next time.
Commodity Culture is a series on commodities and natural resources. If you would like to see more, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification so you're always up to date with the latest episodes.